स्मार्टफोन इंडस्ट्री में हो क्या रहा है आजकल? कौन नंबर 1 है, कौन नंबर 2 है एंड कौन नंबर 3 है?
Looks like brands thug gaye hain, okay, and they are like, okay, that era is over, that energy is, I think, lost. Now we have been analyzing some kind of data, like we have seen how the users usually evolve. We know that during COVID the supply chain got stalled. There was shortage of some of the key components like processors and all that.
From what I understand is like थोड़ा 5G का पुश थोड़ा उसके वजह से OEMs उतना prepared नहीं थे to bring about that kind of change. उसके वजह से भी उनको काफी शेकअप होना पड़ा बड़े कम समय के अंदर.
So जैसे orbit में you launch a satellite and then you see a lot of satellites getting detached and they get placed in their own orbits. I'd say Poco has reached that level today, and it is now in top 7 top 8 smartphone brands this day. I have been always saying that Vivo is the Samsung among Chinese brands. Okay, this is something I have been always saying.
Not that Indian brands were not there. I think Lava is still around.
Lava Yuva, Lava Agni, okay, Lava Storm. They are very much now, I would say, in line with the offerings of their counterparts coming in from China or other global brands.
2G feature phones were there. Geo phone was still hot, right? And Reliance Geo announced like we will launch a 5G Android phone and whatnot, right?
So see, to my mind, there are 2-3 factors I would touch upon. Okay. Now, first of all,
So, welcome to the very first episode of TSW. And today we have a very long old friend, Fazil. We have known each other for a very long time. We have worked together on many stories. I think if you want to understand about smartphone industry, I think there is no one better than Fazil who can give you great insights about smartphone industry. A little bit about me. I've covered consumer tech for a very long time, and smartphone is one of the biggest things in the consumer tech, and I've done unboxing reviews and all. But now it's time to look at the smartphone industry in India, which has been very dynamic from dual core processor to I don't know how many cores there are now. So I think Fazil will be the great person to give you an overview what is happening in the smartphone industry. So Fazil, कैसे हो आप? कहाँ हो आप?
Hey, first of all, congratulations, school. Really, I have been like, we know each other, but I have been following your stories for a long time now. I think it's been at least a decade. We have been knowing each other, and I have been reading your very, very, I would say, to the point and precise and in-depth stories around tech. So happy to be on your show, and all the best with your show. Uh, you said Casio, so I'm absolutely fine. And these days I'm in Kashmir.
So enjoying the perfect weather over there.
Well, there is nothing like perfect weather. I think you have to enjoy and you have to live with all kinds of weather. But yes, it is very, very pleasant out here.
ग्रेट ग्रेट ग्रेट. तो सबसे पहले मैं ये जानना चाहता हूँ कि स्मार्टफोन इंडस्ट्री में हो क्या रहा है आजकल? कौन नंबर 1 है, कौन नंबर 2 है एंड कौन नंबर 3 है? मुझे याद है कि इसके लिए बड़ी मारामारी होती थी कि आज हम इस फलाने सेक्टर में हम इस कैटेगरी में हम नंबर 1 हो गए हैं. तो फिर दूसरे ब्रांड कहता था नहीं नहीं हम इंडिया के नंबर 1 स्मार्टफोन ब्रांड है फलाने कैटेगरी में. तो अभी मार्केट में चल क्या रहा है?
तो आपने you asked very interesting question, because I know my friends in the smartphone industry will not like what I'm saying, but honestly, you know, this is what we are wanting to know. कि हो क्या रहा है, चल क्या रहा है, okay? I know, like how dynamic this industry used to be, okay?
Correct.
And there was like cutthroat competition, brands were after each other. I don't know, पता नहीं, looks like brands थक गए हैं, okay? And they are like, okay, that era is over, that energy is, I think, lost, okay? Perhaps right now I see brands have become very defensive rather than being aggressive, and everybody is trying to protect and hold the territory whatever they have right now, okay?
Mhm.
And you asked to be कौन आगे कौन पीछे. Well, to be very honest, ये हाँ, that is one thing जो थोड़ा अभी fluctuate होता रहता है, okay? And unfortunately, like uh, I feel in present time maybe shipment is not a very, very a great measure, because a lot has changed since. Okay. And sometimes shipment numbers can also be managed by, by way of just saying that, okay, you just increase the inventory and then, phase it out in due course of time. And we have seen this. It's not like it's present times trick, but brands have been doing this such things in the past also, that, you just spike up the inventory in a quarter just to, pack in order. uh, but yes, I wouldn't say there is any particular brand which is number one. But yes, there are a few brands who are still kind of fighting for this position. Of course, Samsung remains there. Okay. Vivo has been a good player, I would say, among the Chinese. And I have been always saying that Vivo is the Samsung among Chinese brands. Okay. This is something I have been always saying. Because, I have seen them. I think there have been two eras of Vivo. Okay. One was when it was just like any other Chinese brand. But then I think sometime, maybe 2016, 2017, they realized that if they want to be in India, they have to be wholeheartedly. Okay, I could say like that. And that is where they started kind of focusing on everything. So, which is probably paying the dividends. And third, I would still not kind of discount Xiaomi. Okay, especially when it is Redmi. Okay, so I wouldn't discount them also. So my sense is that between these three brands, we'll see this kind of flip happening during the year, or maybe during the next 5, 6 kind of quarters, where you'll see either of these three taking the number one position by volume. By value, we know the game is only between Apple and Samsung. I don't see any third player coming very close to that right now.
हम्म। तो थोड़ा सा इस सवाल को ना मैं थोड़ा और नैरो डाउन कर देता हूँ ताकि पता चले कि अभी इंडिया में बिक क्या रहा है, कौन से कैटेगरी। अभी तो मैं तो काफी दिनों से टच में नहीं हूँ और तो मुझे लगता है कि सब आईफोन ही खरीद रहे हैं या फिर सब कोई सैमसंग खरीद रहे हैं, एटलीस्ट उनका जो प्रीमियम गैलेक्सी एस सीरीज है। तो अब कैन यू टेल लाइक व्हिच कैटेगरी, लाइक बजट स्मार्टफोन्स, लाइक इन टर्म्स ऑफ कैटेगरी आई थिंक बजट स्मार्टफोन है, मिड रेंज है विच इज अराउंड 20s, and then there is sub plus 30,000 category, and then I think Apple and other brands opened up a 1 लाख रुपए का भी कैटेगरी जहाँ पे शुरू हो गया था। तो वहां तक तो मुझे याद है, लेकिन अभी आज के रेट में क्या चल रहा है वहां पे, अभी सबसे ज्यादा हैपनिंग कौन सा सेक्टर है अभी कैटेगरी?
Sure, 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 sure. So first of all, like, ये कैटेगराइजेशन देखिए, अगर हम इफ यू वांट टू टेक अ जेनेरिक लेवल कैटेगराइजेशन, देन देयर इज ओनली लाइक बेसिक, मिड एंड प्रीमियम. ओके. But then, yes, you have seen like different research firms kind of categorizing it in a different manner. Now, we have been analyzing some kind of data, like we have seen how the users usually evolve. Okay. And this is that we still kind of segment it into 5 segments, starting from, the basic. Okay. Or we call it the entry level, where the objective is that you want to possess a phone. Okay, you don't bother about anything, but you want to get a smartphone. Then you have something like, a basic phone, which has some level of enhancements. Okay. And then you have mid. Okay. Jahan pe, it's not just about that you want to own a phone or you have some enhancements, but it's also where you start looking at, acha yaar, दिखने में कैसा है, you get into those things. Then you come to premium, and then we have a lux category, which is about 50,000, where, it becomes also important what is the brand behind it. Okay. So all those, that's how we segregate. Now, there are two interesting things which happened. One is, I would say, consumer driven, other is supply chain driven. Okay. We know that during COVID, the supply chain got stalled. Okay. There was shortage of some of the key components like processors and all that. Now, that kind of allowed the entire supply chain, and I'm not just saying the smart chipset providers, but the entire supply chain to, kind of, they kind of cut the normal process of, I would say, evolution of the industry. Okay. Because there was a reason that, okay, there is shortage, and they could kind of rethink that, okay, let's restart. Okay. It was because we reached that level that everything was kind of, I would say, paused. Okay. So that led them that, okay, rather than having our evolution, okay, where we will gradually have a plan, and okay, हमें next 3 years ये technology बेचनी है, उसके बाद ये technology बेचनी है. So they skipped that technology and just, straight away pushed 5G. Okay, which forced many OEMs to give up their 4G plans, and they also had to jump 5G. Okay, now उससे क्या हुआ? Obviously आप premium technology ला रहे हो तो costs went up. Okay, and we saw a lot of OEMs, uh, maybe they say that we wanted to follow the trend, but that's maybe not the real, that's not the only truth. Okay, the other side is that because they did not get the phone or the technology to cater to, the mid range and the entry level phones, they were short of chips and other key components. So that also kind of, push them to defocus from even their, strongholds. Okay, so aapne dekha in the recent years, we have seen there has been degrowth of entry level. आज की डेट में अच्छा, then there is another interesting correlation to note. You know, when we had said 2G smartphones, which we used to call 2G smartphones, there was a still a possibility of getting something less than 4,000. Okay, then came 3G smartphones. We saw नहीं अब 4,000 5,000 से कम कुछ 5,000 से कम कुछ अच्छा मिलता ही नहीं है. Okay, then came 4G smartphones, and we saw you were not able to get anything better less than say 6,000 6,500. Okay, now 5G, with 5G, we are honestly not getting anything less than 10,000. Okay, there have been some launches in sub 10K, Lava, Poco, to name a few. But honestly, the majority of the launches have happened more for in the price, above 10,000 rupees. So that is, I would say that is to some extent pushed a segment rather, to go for an upgrade rather than just a plain replacement. Okay, so that is one thing which has pushed the market to a different segment. The other thing is, which is consumer driven. See, we have to understand our journey of smartphones started 2010. Okay, I would say for majority it started 2014, 2015. Okay, and then there was another, I would say, milestone, which was 2017, 2018, when the 4G started happening. Okay, now, look at all these users, they have evolved over a period of time. Okay. And it is but a natural consumer tendency that whenever you want to buy or replace, you want to kind of change the existing one, you always try to go for an upgrade if your, financials and other economic situations permit so. And I've been saying that I see very strong parallels between automobile and the स्मार्टफोन इंडस्ट्री. ओके, वहां पहले एक बाइक लाता है, टू व्हीलर लाता है बंदा. ओके, सो यू स्टार्ट विद फीचर फोन और मे बी अ बेसिक लेवल स्मार्टफोन, then you move to a car. Okay, an entry level car, then to mid segment, then maybe hatchbacks, then sedans, and then SUVs and whatnot. Okay, तो यही जर्नी स्मार्टफोन में भी हुई. Okay, and people still fortunately love to spend on smartphones. Okay, that's something good. People love to spend on smartphones, and even when I say that हो क्या रहा है industry में, at least the good part is that there is some incremental innovation always happening, and OEMs are, I know it's not easy, we say incremental, it's easy for you and me to talk, अरे बहुत incremental है, but for them it is a substantial R&D, substantial investment. So they have also been trying to bring more value to consumers who want to spend more. Okay, so as a result, I would say, as a convergence of both these trends from demand and supply side, obviously the exciting things are happening in right now in premium and, what we call lux or super premium segments. Okay,
Mhm.
that is where you have a lot of feeder base today in India who are wanting to now buy smartphones of maybe more than 25, 30,000 rupees and, above.
So it's very much like if I draw parallels कि कह रहे हैं आजकल जैसे कहते हैं कि रियल स्टेट में फॉर इंस्टेंस लाइक यू हैव वो जो बजट अपार्टमेंट या फ्लैट्स मिलते थे पहले जितना आसानी से, अब आजकल वो बनते ही नहीं है. मतलब या तो
Hmm.
इस करोर्स और ऐसा, मतलब जस्ट गिविंग एनेक्डोटल, ये जनरल रूल नहीं है. But I see, like, yes, that hasn't changed, and then with smartphones I've realized that there is some sort of an aspirational value. Like, सबको वो टच वाला फोन चाहिए जो ऐसे ऐसे स्वाइप कर सकते हैं, वो फीचर फोन लेते हैं तो उनको वो लगता है कि वो एक यार ये सस्ता फोन है, लोग देख के ही समझ जाएंगे कि सस्ता फोन लिया है. आई डोंट वांट अ सस्ता थिंग टू बी अटैच्ड और टैग्ड विद मी. सो आई फ्रॉम व्हाट आई अंडरस्टैंड इज लाइक थोड़ा 5G का पुश, थोड़ा उसके वजह से ओईएम्स उतना प्रिपेयर्ड नहीं थे टू टू ब्रिंग अबाउट दैट काइंड ऑफ चेंज. उसकी वजह से भी उनको काफी शेकअप होना पड़ा बड़ा कम समय के अंदर. नाउ अब 5G के बारे में और भी बात करेंगे लेटर ऑन. अभी एक चीज मैं जानना चाहता हूँ और मैं बहुत क्यूरियस भी हूँ कि ये Xiaomi के साथ क्या सीन है. मतलब एक समय था जब, like you and I remember, like, Xiaomi was always in the news. कोई ऐसा दिन नहीं था जिस दिन मैंने Xiaomi की न्यूज नहीं लिखी होगी, या Xiaomi के फोन्स, मतलब हर हफ्ते या ऑलमोस्ट हर महीने 1.5 2 महीने में या तो Xiaomi का कोई सब ब्रांड है, रेडमी है या पोको है या कुछ ना कुछ है. कुछ ना कुछ बड़ा ब्रांड लग रहा था कि ये तो सैमसंग को एक बार में हरा ही देगा, लग रहा है कि अब. है ना, इनफैक्ट कुछ कुछ क्वार्टर्स में तो ये आगे भी चला भी गया था एक पॉइंट पे. लेकिन पिछले कुछ दिनों से ना Xiaomi के बारे में इतना सुनता हूँ मैं, ना Xiaomi की ब्रांडिंग इतना देखता हूँ मैं बाहर. एंड इट मे बी सिर्फ मैं नहीं देखता हूँ, लेकिन हो सकता हो रहा हो. लेकिन Xiaomi के इतना बज़ मैं देखता नहीं हूँ जितना पहले होता था जिस लेवल पे. और बहुत सारे पुराने लोग वहां पे जिनको जो थे, जैसे मनु कुमार जैन चले गए वहां से, और काफी लोग और भी लोग छोड़ के चले गए वहां से. और साथ में एक Xiaomi के साथ एक और एक अटैच हो गया कि यार इन्फोर्समेंट डायरेक्टरेट के साथ उनका कुछ चल रहा है. तो आप मुझे बता सकते हैं ये Xiaomi का ट्रैजेक्टरी क्या है, अभी अभी है क्या, क्या हो क्या रहा है उस ब्रांड के साथ.
So again, two, three things which I see with Xiaomi. And when we are talking about Xiaomi, I think we have to remember we are essentially talking about two brands, which is Xiaomi, which is now there in the premium, and Redmi. Okay,
हम्म.
because Poco is now, I would say, it has kind of ejected as out as a sub brand. Okay, and it's mostly doing a lot of things on its own. Okay, so जैसे orbit में you launch a satellite and then you see a lot of satellites getting detached and they get placed in their own orbits. I'd say Poco has reached that level today, and it is now in top seven, top eight smartphone brands this day. Now coming back to Xiaomi, so yes, I think Limelight, probably Hugo Barra said, not for Xiaomi but even for industry, okay, कि एक फेस इंडस्ट्री से आना एंड ऑलमोस्ट डेली बेसिस पे एक कम्युनिटी बिल्ड अप करना, उनके साथ चिट चैट करना, इंडस्ट्री, आई से मेकिंग द बेस्ट यूज ऑफ सोशल मीडिया, व्हिच वाज देन आई वुड फर्दर डेवलप्ड बाय मनु जैन इन इंडियन कॉन्टेक्स्ट. एंड बहुत अच्छे से आई थिंक there was a feeling at one point in time that you could reach out. I mean, when I say you, I mean by consumers. You could reach out to Xiaomi very easily. Okay, approachability थी. Uh, Now that era has overall gone. Okay, today if you see the smartphone executives, okay, of any brand, none of them are very active. Okay, for various reasons. Okay, maybe that they don't want to come into limelight these days for various reasons. आपने एक वजह तो आपने बता दी, but there could be other reasons also. So they are like wanting to be play safe. Okay, so that is one reason I see overall that engagement has gone down. Okay, there are some CXOs I keep on seeing my timelines. Probably they have once a week kind of a thing. Okay, for instance, I can see Murli from Xiaomi having something on Monday. Then I see Madhav sometimes doing similar thing. Now Madhav is Honor. So yes, some CXOs are still trying to do, but that frequency is reduced. Pehle to you remember it very well. It used to be like daily they would do one or the other thing. So that is one thing which has happened across the industry, and so has happened for Xiaomi, because Xiaomi predominantly यही करता था. अगर हम देखें भी marketing उनकी यही होती थी. So that has gone down. The second thing which has happened, I see Xiaomi as and when I'm again talking about Xiaomi, so this is primarily I'm talking about Redmi. Okay, so I see them as a transitionary brand. Okay, something similar to what you can talk about Maruti. Okay, जब जब Hyundai आया, बाकी आए, तो we saw Maruti taking a dip. Okay, but even today, I think, some of the cars from Maruti are top selling cars. Okay. So I'm expecting, I think Xiaomi has also been undergoing this transition. Okay. There has been senior people movement. Okay. And that does impact. हम कुछ भी बोल रहे हैं, that does impact, because at the end of the day, when we talk of market, be it on the channel side or be it on the supply side, okay, एक association होती है between two people. Brand तो okay, brands enter into agreement, okay, but then people execute them. So that association, when gets affected by senior people moving out, so उससे एक असर तो पड़ता ही है, okay. It's simply like that कि uh, if so, whosoever was, I'll not name, like there was X person managing channel for Xiaomi, okay, sometime back.
Mhm.
Now he moved out, okay. Now earlier क्या होता है, वो बहुत सारा काम फोन पे निपटा लेता for the brand.
Mhm.
I'll put it like that. But
Mhm.
now there's a new guy, okay, he has to establish connect with the people in the channel. He has to get that confidence of the channel people. Okay, channel people should see that, okay, he's
Mhm.
someone, because channel में ना बहुत सारे issues हो जाते हैं. Okay, inventory को लेकर, payments को लेकर, servicing को लेकर. So uh, that person should get that feel कि हाँ यार ठीक है, there is a proper escalation matrix, that is fine, but I don't have that much time that I can go through that. So I should be able to, in today's time, WhatsApp the person that, hey, this is my concern, can you please address it?
Mhm.
So that takes a bit of a time. Okay.
Mhm.
I think, and if you see 2023 ke kuch quarters, especially the second half, I think Xiaomi was trying to fix these nuts and bolts. Okay,
Mhm.
be it on the channel side, be it on the marketing side, be it on the positioning side, even from starting from basic, from the product thing. Okay,
Mhm.
they have tried to declutter their portfolio, which has,
Mhm.
I think, reduced confusion in many's mind, including someone like you and me, because हम भी देख रहे थे यार ये left right क्या हो रहा है, Redmi ये, Redmi वो. I
Yeah.
think now that has become more clean. So I would say mix of these three, four things placed it as a transitionary brand,
Mhm.
okay, which has obviously affected, made them a bit silent,
Mhm.
okay, impacted their sales, impacted their, I would say, equity in the market, okay. But मुझे लग रहा है gradually they are probably reaching a stage where we could see, because I keep on talking to people in the channel also, and there is some there is a rebound, I would say, for the brand. So in coming quarters we would see again Xiaomi doing better. Will it be number one? I don't I won't comment it right now. Maybe that's too early. But yes, आ जाएगा वो वापस in a respectable position.
बट ऐसा तो नहीं है कि ये ब्रांड पैक करके अपना बैग एंड दे विल गो बैक फ्रॉम हियर, ऐसा तो कोई सिग्नलिंग तो नहीं लग रहा.
देखिए, see, well, nothing is impossible. Okay, in politics and business, I would say. Okay, but I think India, you know, anybody who would want to kind of avoid India as a consumer market will cease to exist. Okay, this is where you have the growth. This is where you have the market. Okay, like we are 140. Okay, 1.4 billion people. Okay, now even if you cut the infants and other things out, you still would have right now, I think, more than a billion users. Okay, potential buyers. उसमें से भी हम अभी पहुंचे ही कहाँ हैं, 660 million or so, 650. So there is still room. We have achieved this much, and there is still a lot to achieve. Okay,
करेक्ट.
so so that is where I see that India market cannot be ignored by anyone. So I don't see that a reason. Sometimes I know people draw analogies. Ki, say brand X has invested, they have put up their factory over here and all that, and say brand like Xiaomi, they use contract manufacturing, so वो तो कभी भी wind up कर सकते हैं. Okay,
करेक्ट.
but I think keeping that apart, I think it's an important market.
And I'm surprised that these two brands have sustained, they have been around, they have strong offline online presence, no one can deny it, and they have been on the, if I look at the, shipments, they've been around, they've been shipping products in India. And despite all those, China sentiments and so many things, right? Even the sponsor thing, with which happened a few days, I think a couple of years back, right? But they're still, hanging on. So I want to understand, if you look at the brands which have folded up from India, right? They have exited, and vis-a-vis Oppo and Vivo, what they are doing it right as compared to other brands. What makes them so resilient and they have been sticking around?
Sure, sure. So see, I think a couple of things out there. Okay. First of all, when you see any brand and you try to understand what is their spread, okay.
Correct.
When we look at Oppo and Vivo, okay, they're spread across all the segments, okay, which means that they don't want to be a flyby, or they don't want to be kind of a brand which is experimenting or testing the market. Because usually, if you want to test the market, you will come up with a segment, see if it works. If it works, then you will try to expand. Okay, so if I have to draw parallels, I'll uh, compare here OnePlus, for example. Okay, OnePlus came in a particular segment, tried to out, it worked well, and then they kind of expanded up, up and down the segments. Contrary to it, Oppo and Vivo were from day one, they were like in multiple segments. Okay, they were not a single segment kind of a brand. And they today, if you want to buy a Vivo phone, I think you will get it from 10, 11,000 right up to now 1,60,000. Okay, and something similar is with Oppo also. Okay, so you get a range. Second, they also understood that in India, if you have to be successful, you have to invest in offline. Okay. Um, we may say they spoiled offline people, but yes, at the same time, they contributed to build the offline also. Today, a lot of offline is, I would not say has completely transformed into modern trade, but a lot of GT, what is general trade, okay, that has become a semi-modern trade, flavor today. And thanks to, I think, investments done by these two brands over there. So the point I'm trying to make is that, since they had made this effort to establish Pan India, then they had a good basket to offer also. It was but natural that they would stay. Okay, and once you increase your commitments, it's very difficult to make an exit. Okay, you then swim, you do everything to sail the waters, kind
Mhm.
of a thing.
And
So that,
sorry. So I was just pointing out, like, not that they did not have the challenges, right?
yeah.
There was a Xiaomi onslaught, another Chinese player, but also there were like some regulatory challenges, as well as, then again, at some point, even as when I used to review phones, and I used to always find that, why people are buying up these phones. But then I realized that they are, catering to a audience which is like very much interested into, selfies, for instance, Oppo, Vivo
Mm,
phones, or people who are trying to, look like, for the cameras, they like the camera, some like the colors, so from what I understood, that they are understanding the market consumer, like especially the younger generation, what they like, what they don't like. But still they've been around, and which I find it very interesting, is because, they also had few challenges, right? And not that challenges haven't gone away, and looking at the market. So that was my like my observation,
yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I agree with your views also. Exactly. That's It's not that they are not short of challenges. Okay, challenges are there. Okay, and once you're in market, you have challenges. They have all sorts of challenges. I think a lot of them are addressed. Yes, these days I see Oppo a bit kind of shaking up. Okay,
Mhm.
it doesn't have. There are a lot of. I'd say, if not lot, but a few of issues. Like
Mhm.
Oppo doesn't have today an India face. Okay,
Mhm.
who is the real face of India? Oppo used to have someone like in earlier times they had a
Mhm.
Spock, a designated Spock. Today it's a bit kind of, I would say, grayish to find out, okay, who is Oppo's Spock. Okay.
Mhm.
Then second, I think the market positioning is also a bit dwindling.
Mhm.
Uh, Renault, they had come out with a very good series. Okay, it has not been doing that great off recently. I think somewhere they're also capturing the consumer pulse wrong off recently. For example, they launched this race latest last year. They launched the latest edition of Renault. This year they launched a different edition. But when last year they launched Oppo Reno, the focus was on selfie portrait photos. Okay, and launching a phone above 50,000, which has the ASP as portrait selfies, is a difficult sell. Okay, because we had done a small poll and found out that 1 out of 7 pictures taken is a portrait selfie by anyone. Okay, so it's a very niche use case, and spending above 50,000 for a phone which kind of offers some expert or some advanced features over there
Mhm.
was definitely. So I think they need to overall realign the Reno, not just for India but I think globally also.
So, okay, I want your opinion on two more Chinese smartphone brands now.
Mm.
One is OnePlus. I want to understand what is up with this smartphone brand. Again, again, it was again, just like there was a lot of buzz in the smartphone industry, and there was OnePlus as well. And I remember they had like, half yearly phone launches, as well as they tried to enter a different new segment as well. And then they wanted to do some mid-range, like, I remember the flagship killer. Remember the first one of the first slogans they had, like, it says flagship killer, and I think it's more one of the I have personally overused this phrase a lot, that it's the true flagship killer, and you know how journalists we play around with, with words and catchphrases. So I want to understand, like, and that is OnePlus, which I want to really understand about, like, what is OnePlus doing right now, what has worked out for them, and how is their expansion, or even if we want to call it sustenance, then how they are doing it. And I'm very curious about this new brand called Nothing, and it's a not only just the name is peculiar, I think it's the same former OnePlus guy, right, behind it.
Yes.
I'm very
Yeah,
curious.
yeah, yeah.
What is Nothing? I keep after a very long time, I saw my fellow uh, colleagues, like in the people who still do smartphones and all these, talking great things about Nothing, and maybe pretty much excited about it. So again, so OnePlus and Nothing.
Sure. So on OnePlus, okay, a couple of things again. One is again, I think they have, you know, who is the Spock for OnePlus right now in India? Okay, after the last CEO, designated CEO Navneet left OnePlus, you don't have a designated CEO right now. Okay, and this does impact. Okay, because this does impact the confidence of partners, channel people, others that what's happening with the company. Why don't they have a CEO? Okay, are they playing safe? What is the plan? Okay, that is one. Second, on the product side, we know they launched this Nord series, okay, in smartphones. Now, Nord got them into a very crowded mass market. They started getting kind of compared with the brands where they were not. Okay, earlier you remember like OnePlus would just get compared with Apple and Samsung. That was where it was. Okay,
Sure.
but now it is getting compared with everything. And when you get compared, that means you are increasing your competition. Okay. You have to have a different kind of tonality also in your language, in your communication, because you're now catering different audiences. And it then becomes very difficult for a brand to have a series wise kind of communication. Okay. Unless that becomes a full fledged brand in itself. Okay. So suppose had like not been a brand in itself, so then we could expect okay they will have a different kind of branding and communication and everything for Nord, and for the premium category they will have a different thing, but it's still the same. Okay, it's unified, so that does impact. The second thing what has happened is you know uh, Apple has grown substantially in India in recent years. Okay. uh, not primarily because of the latest models, but the latest minus one and latest minus two getting very much getting into the affordability range of users and making consumers think, okay, now I am ready to buy an One Plus, but at the same price, I'm also probably getting the latest minus one of iPhone. So why shouldn't I get that? Because iPhone still has that aspiration, tag, which no other brand has been able to build so far. So that has also impacted OnePlus. Off recently, there were news reports where OnePlus had some issue with channel. Okay, where channel people were saying they'll discontinue selling OnePlus phones in certain regions of the country. I am hopeful that that has been addressed by now, but that also gets to impact the because now. You have to really go omni-channel these days in India. You can't go online only or offline only if you have to sustain in the market. Initially, it is fine. You may choose one of them, but later on, you have to be on both. So these are the things with OnePlus right now. Then again, from product point of view, there has been an overlap. I think because of the full control by Oppo management, okay, from product and all that point of view. So we have seen that the uniqueness which was Oxygen OS that has gone off. Okay, it's now become very much similar to Color OS. So there are users who are not happy about it. They want to see the same Color OS because they bleed OnePlus for that Color OS. So that is one more issue out there for them. And lastly, if we look at OnePlus beyond smartphones, okay, we know they have taken an exit from smart TV category, and I personally loved their watch, and when they launched their first watch, and I was hoping that they would build it a bit aggressively because watch is very polarized still. Either you have a very luxury super premium watch, or you have those
Correct.
ready to recycle watches
Correct.
which come under 2000, 3000 rupees. They attempted, and that was a good product. Even the one which they launched recently, again a good product, a very I would say gives a very premium look and feel, and is also working nice. But somehow they're not very aggressive about it. Okay, so they need to really think that what should be those 3 4 products they want to focus on in India, and then be aggressive about it. You can't go with one model a year, or even if you want, but then go a bit aggressively. So that's what I have for OnePlus to share. Regarding nothing, there are startups after startups in smartphones. Okay, not a fundamental startup though, because if you look at past 3 4 years, we saw IQ coming in, we saw Realme as a startup. If you look at 5 years back,
Yeah.
Realme started as a brand, then we saw IQ starting as a brand, then we saw now this Honor kind of restarting in India.
Correct.
So there have been brands coming in, but they are very much kind of derivatives of an existing brand. Okay. So when a brand thinks of, okay, I want to focus on a particular cohort and maybe go with only online channels, so they start up a brand. Okay.
Correct. Correct.
But here is a brand, nothing, which is fundamentally coming from a tech guy who probably understands consumers well
Mhm.
and still believes that there is room to uh, offer or deliver a better experience by optimizing the software.
Correct.
Okay. So that is where we have seen that nothing has been focusing and investing around. And I think to some extent, they have really done a bit different than other, at least startups have been doing. Okay. So
Mhm.
it's not just about that, okay, I want to build up a brand for a particular channel, or I want to build a brand for a particular cohort. Now, this brand believes that they can still play with technology and they know what to do. Okay. It's an interesting time when many of the brands are struggling. What's next for me? Okay. Is AI next for me? It's foldable next for me. What is next for me? This brand believes that I can do something with smartphone software side. Okay. And I think I think he really very intelligently packaged it, because telling that, okay, there is something different on software. For instance, HMD is now again a startup. Okay. Now again they will try to do something on their clean OS and maybe more secure phone and all that, which is very difficult for consumers to understand. Okay. But I think nothing, flipped the entire focus where it try it while working on the OS. Okay, drew attention towards cliff lights. Okay. So while it was doing everything on the front side of the phone by optimizing software, it excited everyone's attention on the back side, on the rear side.
Yeah.
And when, oh, what is this? Okay, this is something interesting. So, you know, we will leave this spark this discussion whether that cliff light is really useful, how useful, how productive it is, and all that as an addition. But yes, among the recent inventions or innovations, I think it is it stands out. Okay, it does. It really catches attention of users.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like after a long time, I saw people actually sharing, the smartphone design, and I found it
Mm.
pretty interesting also. And looks not very different, but still, it's different enough to create a little bit of buzz and let
Mm.
have like a lot of people talk about. Yeah. So like, how do you see, like, so they have this initial phase which looks very promising, but we have seen, like, the first few phases after, a lot of hype and buzz. Do you think that this brand is for the long term, and will they,
So see,
like,
So
I
see, I
think.
think that is where they are trying to recalibrate their market. What is called as product market fit. So they tried with nothing.
Mhm.
The two versions they had launched earlier. Then they perhaps felt that okay, that is not the segment where they are
Mhm.
getting a breakthrough. So they
Correct.
launched I would say a lighter variant of it in terms of A series,
Mhm.
which has to some extent got some attention of the consumers and is doing well to my understanding. So I think they'll keep on experimenting for some while and find out the right segment where they should be. And see, obviously, they may not come very soon in top 10, top 5, or something like that. But I would still call it a brand of interest. It will remain a brand of attention, brand of interest for all entire stakeholders, people like you and me, consumers, channels. So yes, I think it has been able to at least garner that attention.
Now, like, moving on to the next thing, which I really want to have your opinion on. And there was a time, we thought, Samsung will be the new Nokia. Remember how Samsung came to the market and Nokia became a thing of the past, right? But Samsung is there, you're right, and they've been around, they've been dominating the market. If you look at the categories, in the premium section also, even with Apple, they have been going head on head. Like they have maintained that cycle of launches. There is enough variety. There is enough price brackets in terms of their existence. And if you look at from presence wise, they haven't like gone away from, like, it's not like people have forgotten. And there's nothing like, like we talk about Nokia right now. Oh, there was used to be a Nokia brand and things like this, right? So, I want to understand what Samsung has been doing it right. How what they understand about India that other brands are not able to understand. So, over to you.
I think they did two good things, maybe more. Okay, but rather three things I think they did good, and maybe a couple of things might be a derivative of one of these. So first of all, they realized that they shouldn't, get into that Tizen OS and all that. Okay, that was a good step they did, and they gradually decided to, um, you know, kind of give up that space at all. Okay, and focus more on the segments where they have a lot of value. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
not just value in terms of revenue, but even perhaps where they could add value to products. Okay, so that is one thing which has worked for them. Second is, of course, they pioneered this financing scheme in India, which today is being kind of followed and studied by others also. Okay, today, like I have been talking to people in the channel, and they say people they have been able to identify two kinds of consumers for Samsung right now: the people who come with an ask of looking for a phone in 30,000 rupees, end up buying a phone of 55, 60,000 rupees just because of financing option. Okay. So that is something which is working fine for Samsung. The second thing is that even people who have the capacity, because in offline people know their consumers, they know their socio-economic profile, they know what the spend capacity of person is, what is the buying style of the person, they know a lot about them. So what they tell me is that they are seeing people who have the capacity of buying upfront a phone of say 1,50,000 rupees. Okay,
Correct.
even they are now going for financing option.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so financing has really worked for Samsung out there. Uh, then I think Samsung has been able to establish itself that because of a lot many things, say launching a fold phone, okay, being among the first to launch AI phones. So that it does impact in its positioning that yes, it is a fundamentally strong company, okay, which knows technology, which has R&D understanding, which has its own value chain. Okay, Samsung owns a lot of key components by itself. So all of those things are definitely, impacting and shaping up the, I would say, equity of the company in the minds of consumers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And lastly, they also did a management change. Okay. Uh, People who have been running the affairs for a long time in Samsung, um, they got replaced by the new blood in the company. Okay.
Correct.
And
Correct.
obviously, that means there is refreshness of ideas. There is it's not when you after time you change the team, so it's not just you are refreshing the ideas, you are also refreshing the zeal. Okay, because somebody might have achieved a lot. Okay, and it doesn't excite anyone anymore that okay, just hypothetically saying, so if someone launches a particular cat a model, okay, and it becomes the top selling model,
Mm-hmm.
next time when the same thing happens, it's not a real excitement for that person, because the person believes like, मेरे साथ तो ये होता ही रहता है, the more models I launch. But when a newcomer, new person is coming in and he or she launches the product for the first time and it becomes again a top seller, so it becomes a personal accomplishment for that person. Okay, so I think that has also been a key factor in seeing that new hope in Samsung, I would say.
Mm-hmm. So now, like I want to ask you. Now I want to ask you about one thing. Like how is Make in India going on? Like and also like out of all the brands we discussed, like we didn't discuss one single Indian smartphone brand, right? And because it's not on top of our mind, and not that Indian brands were not there. Like I think Lava is still around. I think they're still launching, but I'm not sure how things with that company. But in the past, we had like say quite a few Indian brands, and I think one of the brands I remember is Micromax. Right, they tried to come back in 2020 after that, after the Galwan clash, and they thought like they will ride on the the wave of the gap demand for Indian smartphone brands itself, right? Even though the what we see that for a long time I thought it was because they were not able to manufacture in India, or if you could call assembling in India. But now all those facilities are there, right? But still, why Indians are not buying Indian smartphone brands? Like what is stopping Indian smartphone companies to, or even any company like which is wants to get into smart industry, why they're not coming in?
So the short answer is there is no shortcut to success.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
you can't operate for a long time in a technology world with a, sorry to say, a trading mentality mindset. Okay, and that is the reason why we have seen downfall of lot of Indian brands. Okay,
Mhm.
uh, now yes, we didn't talk about Lava, but at least Lava is there. Okay.
Correct.
Second thing, I think they understood that emotions and sentiments, they alone, they do not work. Okay. Now I keep on analyzing, for instance, reviews and comments and questions on marketplaces. Okay, so we have a solution around it. We do analyze that, and we see that hardly less than 1% of the potential buyers ask about what is the origin of the brand. Okay, So if that is the situation, hypothetically, that less than 1% of the market is really bothered about what is the origin of the brand, that means you will also, if you are the brand which is playing on it, your market share will be also less than 1%. Okay. And that's a reality. We
Correct.
saw Indian brands today, okay, thankfully have now reached around 2%, which is effectively only lava.
Mm,
But till last year, they were all less than 1%. Okay,
mhm,
because you were playing on this only. So, what Lava has done a bit different over the past 2, 3 years, they understood that this is not going to work alone. Emotion is there, but we have to first establish strengthen the offering, which is the product. Okay. Now, if you see some of the recent series is like Lava Yuva, Lava Agni, okay, Lava Storm, they are very much now, I would say, in line with the offerings of their counterparts coming in from China or other global brands. Okay. So today, as a technology person, a responsible technology person, I don't mind recommending Lava phones now. Okay.
mhm,
And I have honestly recommended some of the people
mm,
who were looking for a phones in those kind of ranges that they can consider Lava.
mm,
Okay. So earlier, yes, you are right. We would never talk about, okay, consider this phone. Okay. We would say, okay, consider ABC brand. These days, yes, we do whenever somebody within our social circles asks for, okay, I'm looking for a phone in this range. We do, at least I do talk about Lava. Hey, you can consider this phone also. Because I have seen that, yes, there are improvements in the product. So that is the story about Lava. Regarding other Indian brands, yes, they unfortunately just felt that we can play this thing, which doesn't work out because Indian consumers are very very rational. Okay,
mhm,
they first look at the core and then build emotions on top of it.
mhm,
Okay, um, so if even with whatever India China conflicts or India China relationships remain, the Chinese brands haven't got affected. It's not because Indian consumers have emotional connect with China brands. Okay,
mhm.
it's not because we have seen nothing works out then. Okay,
Correct.
it's because that Indian consumers genuinely believe that these brands are offering good products.
Good.
Okay, so they are serving the purpose there, and they may have emotionally they may be invested in some other brands. So that's the other story. I think one of the brands you did not talk about or we did not talk about is Motorola because I am seeing them as a comeback brand. Okay. Now you want to categorize them as Chinese brand or a global brand or whatever. So
But this
yes,
brand is making comeback like how many times they will come back? I think they made a comeback not like I think 3 4 years ago, right?
so see, I think that time, okay, they did two comebacks. So one was when there was when there was Lenovo and Motorola portfolio,
Correct.
and it was
Correct.
very confusing. Okay, it was
Correct.
confusing at that time. So that did not work well. Yes, they started this journey 3 4 years back when they started focusing on profitability than anything else.
Correct.
Okay, and that is where I see now that those results are paying off. तो मुझे लगता है कि इस साल onwards we will see them in good position in the market because of their products and other things. Uh, your question was initially about Make in India. Okay. So we discussed Make in India, but on a whole, I think it is now high time, and we have seen government talking about Viksit Bharat 2047, goal and all that. I think we should have a credible Indian brand by that time. Okay.
Mhm,
It's not just important for us to have make in India, brands making in India, but we should have brands in the league of Apple, Samsung, LG, and others of the world. Uh, there should be at least a couple of brands from India also. Because not just smartphones, if I talk of the entire smart gadgets industry, we are today around 5 lakh crores.
mhm.
Okay, and out of that, Indian brands hardly have 50,000 crores of revenue. Okay. And you know what is the value addition which takes place out of
Correct.
it.
Correct. Correct. We would love, no, would not love an Indian brand to dominate the global space like we do in IT, for instance, right? And then maybe in future one of the startups are will do that. But in smartphone space, or if you look at brands who are in related categories, we don't have a lot of Indian brands doing well, and almost close to non-existence, right? Now, again, I'll go back to one question which I like, which is very close to which are my heart also. Like when I stopped writing and talking about consumer tech, and that was the time around. I think during those time, 2G phones were 2G feature phones were there. Geo phone was still hot, right? And Reliance Geo announced like we will launch in a 5G Android phone and whatnot, right? So it's been a while, those announcements and those kind of, and at some point I thought, okay, there will be a smartphone in the hands of everyone, right? Or some sort of Android smartphone. Maybe not exactly what the form factor which we are used to, but still, feature phones will cease to exist, right? At some point, it will go away, but they haven't gone. And I think you were talking about, that a good smartphone would at least cost 10,000 rupees. I get the aspirational value of it, but again, India is such a big market, right? And especially the sub 5,000. And I remember Xiaomi launching of some phone called Redmi Go in that
Yeah,
category.
yeah, it was
Five,
on
6,000.
Android Go. Yeah.
So what happened, right? What happened to this category? Why there are still feature phones around? Why people are not using internet on those phones? When it comes to, and not just from selling phones, not just from the brand's point of view, but also from the point of view of making these Indians empowered, who are not making a lot of money, right? Who can afford say 2,000, 3,000 phone? Why it's impossible for brands after so many years, and like in 4 to 5 years is a long time, why it's still impossible for them to bring a good smartphone which costs 3,000 and 4,000, and still for someone and it's what I'm
Mm.
trying to say, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So see, to my mind, there are two, three things, factors I would touch upon. Okay. Now, first of all, you know, all brands, especially post COVID, have been focusing on profitability. Okay. So everybody is thinking of being in segments where they can have profits and revenues. Okay. Because it's been like, 10, 12 years for many of the brands operating in the market, still not making money. Okay. So the time has come to kind of focus on it. And that's where they go to segments where they can, expect some premium from a consumer. Obviously, 3, 4,000, 5,000 segment is not the market. Even in today's time, it's not even 10,000 that where you can make good money to sustain. So that's one. Second, you need to have a tech solution, uh, a disruption in making to be able to offer something at 3, 4,000 rupees or even 5,000 rupees. Now that needs a lot of R&D and investment. Who is going to do that? Okay, that's the second point, because it's a long haul thing. Like you tell someone that okay, you invest billions of dollars in, and then you will get an access to 3, 4,000 market, which is huge. So it's not making mathematics unless there is some other like entity like government, like which thinks no, we need to have people in this segment and having smartphones, so we want to have an investment. Okay, so it is more of a strategic investment than a business investment for someone. Third reason, the second, so that's why brands are not focusing on it. Okay. The second reason out there has been that after the emergence of Geo, okay, every brand, especially working in the segment, has been thinking, what will Geo do this year? Okay. So while they want to focus on this segment, that can we think of a 6,000 rupees smartphone? Can we think of a 8,000 rupees smartphone? But then at the same time, they have a question, okay, what is Geo going to do this year? Okay, because that's going to impact them largely. Okay, so again, that kind of dilutes their focus. So they say, rather than getting into this risky water, let me focus on some segment where I can at least make some money and I don't have this kind of volatility expected. So that's the second reason. The third reason is consumers. Okay, while yes, everybody we feel would want to have a touch phone, there are still people who don't want. Okay, for various reasons, affordability being one of them, second being ease of use. People feel iska screen toot jayega, ye ho jayega, what will happen then? Third is we still have areas in the country where power is an issue. Okay, and they want their phones to work for 6 7 days. Okay, they want to have those kind of assurances. And last of all, look at when we say empowerment, okay, I think connectivity offers a lot of empowerment, okay, and that is the reason everyone wants a phone, okay, because connectivity gives that empowerment.
Correct.
Yes, 4G gave second kind of empowerment where a lot of app-led businesses started. So today, a lot of people are on these apps and they're working, okay, be it the food aggregators or the other kind of such, people out there. So unless you have a reason today which doesn't empower you but gives you a reason that okay, it's going to add to your income,
Mhm.
okay, I think that is not happening right now in with a phone of at say 5,000, 6,000 rupees. Okay. So if that something like that happens, then you will see no reason people will take loans and do whatnot to get a hold of phone for 5, 6,000 rupees because they know that okay, it is going to improve their income. Okay. But I think we are yet to find out a solution or a fit out there. So
Mhm.
in summary, these three, four reasons, again, some of the supply side issues, some of the demand side issues, I see this segment not growing right now, which as a result is still keeping the feature phones alive.
All right. So, so I think that is all which I wanted to discuss today. And thank you so much for taking out time. बहुत मजा आया, बहुत सारी चीजों के बारे में आपने बात करी और हमने बहुत सारी चीजें मिस भी करी है, मुझे भी पता है। मैं like I want to ask you about foldable phones. I want to ask about form factors. बहुत सारी चीजें स्मार्टफोन में जो हम लोग इंडस्ट्री में अभी बहुत सारी चीज मिस हो गई हैं। हम लोग डेफिनेटली अगली बार कैच अप करेंगे। थैंक यू सो मच फॉर टॉकिंग टू मी।
We will.
इट्स अ वंडरफुल एक्सपीरियंस हमेशा, एंड आई थिंक हम लोग अगली बार शायद इन पर्सन मिलेंगे, या तो मैं कश्मीर आऊंगा या फिर आप इस
Would love to see you here, and why not? And it was really nice and enjoyed the interaction with you. Refreshed lot many things, and again, all the best with your podcast.
थैंक यू सो मच, थैंक यू सो मच सर।